How's it going, everybody? I am joined with Jake Pilla, the gorilla. Now, in mixed martial arts, we've heard of vanilla gorillas, we've heard of killer gorillas, and you might think that Jake Pilla is just an ordinary gorilla. There's no allegations of homicide, there's no sort of flavorings to his gorilla, but his track record is anything but normal. He has fought 3 times professionally with 3 first-round submissions. So, Jake, did you leave the oven on at home? Are you double parked? What's the rush?
I tell everybody, man, as soon as Rick and the boys from Combat FC want to pay me for being in there longer, I'll stay longer. As far as I knew, they're going to pay me the same if I'm in there for a minute or 15. So I just try to get it over with,
Of course. Yeah. You're not paid by the hour, huh?
Yeah, exactly. I'm paid by job. I might as well get it over with.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously your jiu-jitsu is extremely good. You own your own gym. Is that correct?
Yep. Mm-hmm. So I've owned a gym now for about 2.5 years. We're going into our 3rd year come October. So.
Okay, fantastic. That's awesome. But you started out learning Kung Fu, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I started Kung Fu when I was 4. I became like an assistant instructor by the time I was 9, and I was like helping with the little kids class. And then I did that probably till I was about 18. And even to this day, I have friends that own like Kung Fu schools, and I'll stop in and go over forms and have some fun. I started with Kung Fu, and then I'd say 13, 14, I got really invested in the jiu-jitsu and some Muay Thai and some MMA, and that kind of flipped the switch for me. So I started making the leap around then.
Okay, so that's awesome. How do you think that participating in traditional martial arts has prepared you in ways that maybe other people may have missed if they go straight into Muay Thai and all that?
I think I'm more disciplined. I think I also I look at it a little bit differently where, I don't come from at my school, everybody bows before they walk in the room. The level of respect and the level of kind of, I don't want to say hierarchy because it's not hierarchy, but the respect and the fundamentals and the history of what we're doing is kind of greatly there. And I think a lot of the new guys who just train MMA, it's easy to ignore a weakness. For example, my jiu-jitsu has shown more than other areas of my game through my last couple of fights. But because I feel I'm a full martial artist, I know I want and I have been working on my boxing. Where an MMA guy might just take a look at it and say, oh, I'm good. Obviously MMA isn't boxing. I want to be the best I can at everything. I want to be the best wrestler I can be, the best jiu-jitsu, the best at boxing, the best at kickboxing, and I think that's kind of what separates me from a lot of the newer guys, the younger guys. It's easy to be a one-trick pony and to just be good at jiu-jitsu and survive by that, or just be good at one thing and survive by that. Where being a martial artist, man, it's always my job to improve and be better. So I definitely think that's kind of the area where most people would miss.
Okay, that's great. Also, for the viewers, Jake did compete in a grappling match, and you'll be shocked at the outcome. He got a first-round submission. The same. Do you have any interest in doing that on a regular basis, or boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai, anything like that?
I don't know if I would love to do like one kickboxing fight just for the fun of it. I don't think I'd want to make a career out of kickboxing, but I think it'd be fun to throw 1 or 2 fights and just kind of, move around, have some fun. As far as jiu-jitsu, I would like to over the next probably 2 years or so start competing in some of the bigger tournaments and, start really making, try to go for some trial runs or some big opens and see what I could do.
Okay, fantastic. So historically, your pro debut, which was against Shaquan Moore, there was ruled a no contest due to an illegal groin strike. How did that feel? Okay, not how did that feel? I know how that feels, but how did you emotionally? Was that kind of, how did that?
That you once.
Your pro debut was against Shaquan Moore, and it was ruled a no contest due to an illegal groin strike. And it was your pro debut, right? That had to suck a lot, right?
Yeah, it hurt, man. It was it definitely felt like I had something taken away from me that I worked for a long time. I have done martial arts my whole life. I worked really hard in my amateur career. I had 9 fights. I went 7-2, fought some tough names, had full battles with Danny Abad, and really, went through the ringer. And so to take all those steps, the fight prior to that fight was supposed to be my pro debut, and the day of weigh-ins, my opponent pulled out. So that one was taken from me, and so that became an amateur fight. And then we finally set up this pro fight, and it again kind of felt like it was taken away from me. So I think by the time I got my first pro win, not that I was over it, but I was like, oh, whatever, you know, they've already taken it from me a couple of times. I don't know, man. I've had, like, you know, rough things happen throughout my life, and you know, I know the only way to kind of look at them is a small step in the road. You know, here I am now years later, you know, not that that's not relevant, but you know, I've put it behind me. I'm, you know, racking up wins. I'm doing the right thing. I'm, you know, moving my career forward. And as long as I keep a positive outlook on it, I think I'll be all right. But at the time, it was definitely rough. You know, it was a hard one to swallow, because I felt like I had done all the right things to get what I had wanted out of that, and I didn't receive it. And win, lose, or draw is okay, you know, but to not be able to get it to there, that's rough, you know. So, you know, definitely a hurdle I had to go through at one point. But I've been coaching for so long that, you know, like, after a good fight or a bad fight, your students don't really care. You know, they want you at the gym. You have to be there. You have to show up. You have to, you know, you got to get up the next day and you got to put it on. And so, you know, I think being a coach for as long as I have and doing what I do has been a big help in moments like that. And so I think, you know, continuing to coach and continue to put myself up there, you know, hey, everybody has their day, you know, and I've been very blessed to say that I have mine, you know, more so than I have not, you know. But I just take it with stride. You know, win, lose, or draw, I'm going to keep going back to the drawing board. I'm going to keep looking to get better, and I'm just going to keep kind of taking fights and trying to work my way up the ladder. You know, I'm not here to jump the line or take big fights, or I'm ready to just take it kind of one step at a time and slow and steady, and I think I'll make it there.
For sure, yeah. And on the other hand, which of your victories were the sweetest?
My cartwheel kick was awesome, man. That was like huge. That felt good because, like, it sounds funny, and shout out to Matt Brady for taking that fight, but that was supposed to be my pro debut. And so, like, I kind of joked. Well, I didn't really joke. I told everybody for like 3 weeks leading up to the fight that I was going to throw that kick. And I kind of made an ass of myself. So, like, all my friends, and I was like, I'm telling you, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And I don't think anybody really believed me. And so the fact that I did it and pulled it off, and it just, like, execution was perfect, was really, you know, kind of like a feather in the hat. I have videos, like, if you were to go back on my Instagram, there's promo videos from before that fight. And then one of the promo videos, you see me throwing that capoeira kick.
Very simple. I respect him for getting in with me, but I come to do damage. So it's that simple. Jake the Gorilla.
You knew you're setting it up, huh?
Yeah, no, and that's you know,
fantastic.
like, yeah, it was pretty funny. I was betting friends, like, oh, I bet you $20 I'll throw it. You know, like, just kind of kidding. And then, you know, to have it win the fight was pretty cool. I was super happy with that one. I say, other than that, I don't know. My standing arm triangle felt good. I feel like my jiu-jitsu was really showcased with that. You don't see a lot of those, you know?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, like, my submission game so far in MMA has been pretty good. I have 2 Von Flue chokes, which you don't see very often. My standing arm triangle, rear nakeds, I have guillotines, you know? So as far as, like, fights go, I'd say that cartwheel kick kind of took the cake.
That I saw that. That was incredible. I also saw the standing arm triangle. And can you explain to someone who is not trained why it's difficult to do on the feet?
Yeah, so I would say less so that it's difficult to do on the feet. The fact is that it's hard for someone to get in a positional standpoint to be able to get it, right? Generally, you find that that's only used when someone's back and hips are, like, pinned against the mat, and you can kind of control their movement. Where I used the cage and it was a little bit different, I felt like it was a little bit more challenging. You know, he had a lot more room to move his hips. Obviously, he's not trying to fight up off his back. He's standing up. And so in that middle ground, you know, that's kind of where MMA, that middle ground is where I was very kind of happy to catch him. And so that's why it was a little bit more difficult to do standing up.
Yeah. Yeah. To put that into perspective, I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, Jessica Andrade did that 2 fights ago, and they said it was the first time anyone's done it in the UFC. So it maybe happened once in all of UFC. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a
big deal. First time in UFC, but it's been done before.
Yeah. So eventually I do want to ask you about your fight coming up a week from today, right?
Yeah.
And so how are you feeling? How do you feel about your opponent?
I feel good. He was kind of a last minute replacement. We had 2 fights fully kind of lined up, and then both of them didn't go through. Injuries, weight issues and whatnot with the other fighters. And so then at that point, I kind of didn't think I was fighting. I ended up taking like a small injury during camp, nothing crazy, but a little frustrating, and then not having an opponent. And I was like, all right, maybe this just isn't the window, and I'll just wait off, find something else during the summer, or their next card is September. I love fighting for them. And then he just called me up and he said, hey, he's like, I have a gentleman last minute, says he'll take the fight, if you want it. And so I just kind of went to my coaches and I was like, hey, I'm about as healed up as I think I'm going to get. I think we can take this and run it. And I don't see why we shouldn't. It's just another step. It's another small step on the ladder. This isn't, this would be the biggest fight of my career because they're all the biggest fight. But I know that there's a lot of bigger things coming in the future. And so I just got to take this walk next week, get through this uninjured and, just take a little bit of time after this to let my body heal up, recover. And then I'm right back at it.
All right. That's great. That's a great outlook. So I have a question that I'm going to be asking in all of my interviews, which is, if I could wave a magic wand and make you any size. Now, I know that you've fought at 3 different weight classes, but if I could make you any size, who would you want to fight out of all the fighters, past, present?
Who would I want to fight?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's a cool question, man.
Thank you.
I would say, and this is not because I think I'm I guess, winning this fight a lot of the times, but just to say you did it, man, I'd love to fight Anderson Silva. Just to float around a room with him has got to be one of the coolest things, So that would definitely be. I'd be a lot taller,
Yeah.
I think one of these days I'm gonna hit my growth spurt. It's coming.
That's an excellent answer. Yeah. But yeah, speaking of weight classes though, you fought at bantamweight, lightweight, catchweights, featherweight.
Yeah, I'm a bantamweight. I'm a 35er.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 5'7". I don't walk around super heavy. The fighting for Combat FC, the 140 is nice. I enjoy the fact that they're not making us cut the misery 5 pounds. But pretty much, if you look at the guys that I have fought my last, 2-3 fights for them, they're all 35ers. We're all 35ers. And so, I mean, if we do it, I don't want to say statistically, but if you look at fighters, one of the most, or something that you can tell takes a big toll is the weight cuts. So if there's a promotion that's allowing guys that are true 35ers to be fighting at 140, then it makes sense, But if there comes or when the opportunity comes for an organization like the UFC or the PFL or something like that, I'm a 35er all day.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So you plan on staying at 35. Where do you see yourself in, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years?
I would say 1 to 3 years. I'm fighting some big organizations, whether that be the UFC, the PFL, Bellator. I'm kind of okay with any of it, but I definitely want to make that walk. I've coached for the PFL a little bit for John Howard. I've been to XMMA and some of the bigger shows, Eagle FC. I'm not really trying to be picky, I'm just trying to, kind of, I guess, work that ladder. If the UFC is definitely the biggest opportunity as far as exposure and anything you can do, it's the biggest organization for the sport. So, of course I want to fight there, but then you got to look at something like the PFL and say you can make $1 million in a year. It'd be crazy not to want to go and take a shot, So it's to catch up. ONE FC has a lot of good, 35ers. So that would be pretty cool, fly over there. They just had their first, US fight. So I definitely think 1 to 3 years, man, I'm fighting in one of the bigger promotions. Just same as now, climbing my way up the ranks, slow and steady, and just trying to take out names.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that because I have noticed that 135 is just like stacked no matter where you look. There's just a bunch of people that are exactly that size that are killers. Do you have any idea why that's the case?
I think with ONE FC having, kind of started to push the lower divisions, I think you're seeing a lot more of it. And I also think not in a funny way, but I think the evolution of the sport has brought in a lot of smaller guys, where it's a very aggressive and it's a fight sport. A lot of the bigger guys, I think for a long time kind of ruled the gyms, but now people know that training doesn't mean that you're fighting each other 6 days a week. Training is training. And so I think with the newer age of training, you're kind of able to have smaller guys and guys that are, different weight classes, where before, if you weren't big and tough and could take a beat, you probably weren't surviving very long, So I think the change in times, I think the ability to have more gyms and more jiu-jitsu and have it be a little bit, safer and more accessible has made a big difference for the weight classes. Because before, all you'd see was the heavyweights, the 170s, the 185s. Those are the bigger guys that survive in gyms,
Right.
So I definitely think that's a big kind of the turning point too. Same thing with the women, you know what I mean? The women MMA really kind of popped, and now there's girls everywhere,
Right. Yeah. It's all over the place for sure. Can I get a prediction on how your fight goes next week?
Yeah. I have noticed that he's not big on making it out of the first round, and neither am I. And so I'm going to Mystic Mac myself a first round.
It will be done in one.
Not to say that he isn't tough and he's not coming to bring it, but I do think that there's going to be a mistake that is made within the first 2 minutes, and I think that's going to be the fight. And if not, I think I will impose my will for, the entirety of the time. I'm going to go in there, calm, cool, and collected. I'm going to pick my shots, land what I need to, chip away at them, take them down if I want. And then once we're on the ground, I mean, you're in my world, And so that's definitely one of those things. I think as soon as we touch that cage, as soon as we start to go to the ground, I think, I think even the crowd is starting to understand that, once I go to the ground, people are in trouble. That doesn't mean I'm finishing everybody. I'm always going to be able to, but there is a level of danger anybody should feel when they roll with me, or when they're when we're tied up at all. And I think he's going to feel that very quickly. I do want to showcase a little bit of striking. I do want to kind of open up and loosen up a little bit more than I maybe normally would. But I'm thinking within the first 2.5 minutes, I think this fight's going to be over.
Awesome. And where can the viewers go to watch this fight?
So this fight is going to be live on UFC Fight Pass, which is pretty cool to say. So it's going to be pretty awesome. You can jump on the UFC app or on ESPN Plus. And then obviously, if you're looking for results or any behind the scenes stuff, you can always follow my Instagram at Jake the Gorilla. And that's definitely, we get all the little stuff and all of the intricacies of my life. So.
Awesome.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
Do you have any other socials you want to shout out?
Yeah, so I'd like to shout out the gym social, Gorilla Crew Fitness. Gym's been booming. I got a lot of guys fighting. I got Melissa Santos fighting in 2 weeks. I have Ryan Wackrow fighting in 2 weeks. I have Amber Caldwell fighting tomorrow. I got a whole team of killers, and we're all going to war this month. So definitely keep an eye on the gym page and get a view of not just what I'm doing, but kind of what we're all doing and what we're building. And other than that, man, I think that's kind of it for now.